welcome back to Minu's Mortuary. Can't really see my shirt if I slide back some. I got a new Chucky shirt. It's a little tighter than I like. The consequence of being fat is that, sometimes you buy a shirt and it may seem like it's going to fit, but then you forget that it's going to shrink when you wash it. So it's a bit tighter than I would like it to be, even though originally it wasn't that tight. But you can even see around the neck, like it's very stiff. It's not the best quality, but it's like when you're a horror fan, finding comfortable clothes that show off like your characters and stuff, you just can't really get it. And your only chance at getting something is around Halloween time, but then it's like still not good quality material. In case you were wondering where I've been, you probably aren't, but if you were, I'm just struggling right now. So please be patient and give me grace. All right, moving on from that. What I want to talk about today, I want to talk about The Substance because everybody's asking, like, did anybody watch The Substance? Like, is anybody talking about The Substance? What did you think? All of that. And I'm not going to be able to edit this video very much to give you, like, the cool visuals or anything like that. I'm just going to talk to you kind of like podcast style about, the movie and what I liked about it and when I saw it. So the premise of The Substance is something where if you told me the premise of The Substance, I probably would not have watched The Substance. But the premise of it is that the main character, Elizabeth Sparkle, who is some kind of celebrity, I'm not sure I fully caught like everything that she did because we kind of pick up after the fact and not like in the middle of her fame. But she is a celebrity and she on her 50th birthday, her male executive boss, like all decide like, oh, you're 50, you're too old. We want young women. And so she gets fired and they start hiring for younger women. And then she comes across something called The Substance, which is supposed to make her a better, younger, more beautiful version of herself. If you had gave me that as the premise of this movie, I would not have watched the movie. I have seen this story play out so many times in other movies and shows, especially with white women. And I know that it's a good cast in terms of like the people, the actors and stuff like that. But I'm not somebody who watches a movie just to watch the actors. Like I really want to be interested in what the story is. And I've seen this story over and over and over again. In fact, it was done in American Horror Story multiple times with Jessica Lange, where it's dealing with the fact that you are a white woman who is getting older and people don't see you as beautiful or attractive as they did when you were younger. And it's difficult to achieve stardom when you're older. And I feel like that premise would have made sense many years ago. But I feel like in 2024, there are so many like medical stuff that female celebrities do that allows them to look young for a long time. And then if you're a black woman, you just don't even be aging at all. You be looking the same as you did 20 years ago. But this is like something that we see this storyline a lot playing out on the screens with white women. Even going back as far as like you can go into black and white era, like 1950s, 1960s movies and see stories about white women who were beautiful and attractive and had stardom, and then they got older and people didn't like them as much. It's a very old premise. But what makes this movie stand out is what happens after she decides to take the substance to become like the better version of herself. So the premise alone is just like seen it before 50 million times. But what happens after the substance is introduced is like, okay, this is very unique. And this is, really what I think the draw is for a lot of people. Like, but I will say, just like the beginning of the movie, I was not a fan of the beginning of the movie because it just felt like a story that I had seen 50 times before. And also, too, on top of that, some things were just not that realistic either. Like, there was some areas where it seemed like these men were just like these super grimy, misogynistic guys who only cared about youth and beauty. But then it's like the way that they treated younger women felt like it was more of the fantasy of an older woman looking down on younger women, because in real life, younger women are not treated that much better. Like if you're a misogynistic old man and you don't like a woman because she's old, chances are if you get possession and control of a younger woman, you're not going to treat her that much better. You may be kind of smiley in the beginning, but then you're still going to treat her poorly because you don't value women in general. And you may feel that you're entitled to treat her poorly because of the fact that she is young and impressionable. You know, there's a lot of stories going on in Hollywood right now, but like think Harvey Weinstein type stuff. Like, it doesn't matter if you're young or old. If this man is truly misogynistic and does not value women, he will treat you poorly both ways. He may be nice to get you in the door, but once he feels like he got you and there's that power dynamic there, he will still treat you poorly. And I just felt like there was several scenes within the movie where for the male executive to be believable, I would have expected him to treat the younger women worse than he did. He just seemed like he was just like, oh, she's young. Give her whatever she wants. Whatever she wants. I love you. You're great. And it's like, okay, yes, I get the love bombing. But at a certain point, like your true self shows. And I don't really think it showed that much during the first half of the movie. So I'd say those are my criticisms of the movie in terms of it feels very much like all of this, like if at the end of the movie they told me that all of this took place in Elizabeth Sparkle's head and that she just like hallucinated or imagined it all, or she was like writing this story, I would have been like, that makes perfect sense. Okay. Yep. Great. But that's not how the movie ended. It ended in a much more nonsensical way. Spoilers. When the substance is introduced, instead of it just making Elizabeth younger, it actually like does like some kind of cellular mitosis situation where it basically makes her birth out of her spine, but it makes her like birth another her that is younger than her. And it's like she grows inside of her body and like rips her way out of her body. And that's immediately where a lot of this doesn't make any sense, because for a 20-something like grown woman to rip her way out of a 50-something grown woman, I don't see how you could survive that, because your organs and your bones would all just be smashed. But I guess maybe as she was growing, she just kind of pushed out of her back. I don't know. They don't show that specific part. But that's what happens. And then she has this younger version of herself who calls herself Sue, which I don't know if this was intentional or not. My brain immediately thought of like Mary Sue, like when you're writing fan fiction and you like create your own character to self-insert into a story, because Sue was not at all like a sexy name or an eye-catching name in any way. I don't know what was the reason behind her being called Sue and not something else. Like, you know, you got Elizabeth. She could have been Beth or Bethany or I don't know, something similar, or even had the same name and people just thought that she was a completely different person despite having the same name. It could have been other ways, but she ends up calling herself Sue. She's young, she's pretty, her body's perfect, and she goes to audition for basically her old job. And immediately the executive boss is like, you're beautiful, you're amazing, I love you, you can have whatever you want, like all of that. And the rules of the substance is that they have to switch every 7 days. No, there's no exceptions. And also she's given this like, I don't know, some kind of food pack IV situation that she like injects into Elizabeth's body to keep her alive for those seven days. And then Sue has her own little packets of food that she's supposed to be taking to stay alive. But it's like immediately, you know, Sue is just, you know, she's treated really well. People like her. And she immediately gets the job. She tells the guy like, oh, every other week I gotta go home. I can't work every other week. And the guy's immediately like, yeah. You only want to work twice a month. That's great. Perfect. Whatever. which I thought was also unrealistic. Like, I feel like he would have been like, do you want this job or not? If you do, fuck your mother. Like, just be here. Be here when I want you to be here. But no, he was immediately like, oh, yeah, you could just do that. So the very first week, she's like partying with some, and she ends up bringing home some guy and having sex with him. And because she doesn't want to end early to go back to like switch back with Elizabeth, she like stays a bit longer and she tries to like suck more vitamins or juice, whatever, out of Elizabeth's spine so that she can go for a little bit longer. And she tends to do this over and over and over again, which causes Elizabeth's body to actually rot because it's not meant to go beyond the 7 days, because she only has enough food for 7 days. So she's not getting the nutrients she needs to take care of her. And I feel like I think that I do like the first half of the movie, or like the first 3/4 of the movie, when you're showing how Sue views Elizabeth and how Elizabeth views Sue, because Sue and Elizabeth, they're still technically the same person, as the substance like tries to remind them, like, you are one person. You're not two separate people. It's not you versus them. You're the same. Sue has a lot of resentment towards Elizabeth, like almost immediately, like, but it's like, it's Elizabeth's resentment against herself. It's how she feels about herself. It's all of her self-loathing is coming through Sue, who is neglecting her and mistreating her in a similar way that people just mistreat older people. Like, they see your life as not worth that much, and they don't see you as doing much with your life, and therefore not deserving of time and energy. And these are all things that Elizabeth also feels, because whenever she's back in control or whatever for that week, she really has trouble like interacting with people. She starts to isolate herself. She becomes very depressed. She just sits in front of the TV and eats because she doesn't feel like she is worthy of going out in society. They even have a scene where she, a guy that she went to school with asks her out on a date, and she ends up calling him and getting ready for the date. But when she looks at herself in the mirror, all of that resentment and self-loathing kind of comes through, and she is unable to go out on a date. She ends up ghosting him and ghosting everybody and just ordering takeout and wasting away for the week. And as angry as it makes her when Sue takes more than she should and it causes her body to rot, there's also that part of her that wants to experience that stardom again, that wants to see that, happen again, because she misses being important and being seen as valuable by the people around her. Even her neighbors just find her to be annoying at this point. Whereas with Sue being a young, beautiful white woman, people are willing to give her whatever she wants. I really feel like, too, there's a missed opportunity to talk about the race part of this, but I understand why they wouldn't, because white women get real offended when you bring up race. But I will say, with Elizabeth's struggle, I definitely felt it. That was really, really good acting. And also really good, like, effects, too, of, like, as her body started to rock. 'Cause I do love body horror. But I felt that it was really good acting in terms of, like, just seeing, like, the depression that she felt and how empty she felt now that Sue, that young, vibrant, beautiful part of her, is gone, is off, becoming a famous celebrity and just climbing the ladder off of exercise videos, which I don't really understand that part either. But again, it feels like something that if you told me Elizabeth wrote this story, I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because exercise videos is such a weird thing for somebody to pop off and become super famous over, to where they're like becoming hosting the New Year's award show ceremony or something. But once that part of her is gone, all of the happiness, all of the love, like all of that stuff, like that's just out of her and into Sue, and Sue is off basking in the warmth of that, whereas Elizabeth is just left to rot away because like this crucial part of her is missing now, and she does not value herself. She doesn't like what she sees in the mirror. And she just lets herself waste away like super quickly. It happens very quickly. Like, she, on her 50th birthday, she loses her job. And she does the stuff with the substance, and then she immediately is just like, there's nothing else to do in my life. I might as well just sit here and waste away. While also kind of being a little bit angry that Sue is taking from her, but then also feeling like she doesn't really deserve to have anything because the world doesn't value her anymore now that she's 50 years old. Which again, if you look at celebrities today in 2024, it's a lot of celebrities that are in their 50s that people are like, wow, they still love you and they think you look great and amazing. I would say the parts about this that made me a little bit uncomfortable, anything that revolved around sex or sexualizing certain parts of the body. I get that it's the male gaze and it's totally necessary for the film. I just personally didn't enjoy looking at those pieces or looking at women as pieces of their body. So it did make me feel uncomfortable, which I'm guessing is what the movie was going for. So great. I felt more uncomfortable in the scenes where Sue was being sexualized than I did in the scenes where Elizabeth was becoming like deformed. Like it was given The Fly, it was given Cronenberg. Like she was just becoming more and more deformed as she began to rot away more, as Sue wanted to like continue like going higher and higher and taking more and more. Yeah, but I really like the dynamic between Sue and Elizabeth because I think it represented a lot of what Elizabeth's anxieties and insecurities were. And Sue just took that and just reflected it back onto her. But then at the end, after Sue takes way too much and Elizabeth has become like completely deformed and rotted, she tries to terminate the process by getting this special like terminate solution or whatever that she then injects into Sue. But at the last minute, she changes her mind because she really wants Sue to go and do that, host the New Year's award show. She really wants her to do that. So then she's like, okay, I'm not going to do it. And so she tries to revive her by taking out stuff from her body and then injecting it to Sue to give her life again. And when Sue realizes what happened and that she was about to kill her, again, keep in mind that these are two people, but they're the same person. They end up in this huge fight. And this is where the rest of the movie just goes completely off the rails. Like, it started out hinting that this was not going to be a movie rooted in realism because Elizabeth never showed any type of skill when it comes to like being handy or anything like that. And I've seen some complaints about this as well in comments about the movie. But immediately after Sue is born, she is able to, she walks around the house and she's like knocking on parts of the wall to figure out where the hollow points are. And she gets some tools and she is able to build an entire room in like a secret door in the bathroom to house Elizabeth's body so that nobody knows that she's there. And that's really, really weird. Because it's like, where you get this skill from? Like, how did you know to immediately like build all of this? Like, it makes no sense. But also there's something to be said about the fact that it's just an empty room and she just throws Elizabeth's body in there. Like, she don't put no bed in there. She don't give her a pillow. Like, she don't try to make her comfortable. Like, she's just thrown in, like, there's not a toilet in there. Like, she's literally just thrown in a hole. Like, she immediately throws herself away because she now has the beauty that she desired and the youth that she desired again. So I get the symbolism of all of it, and I thought it was really good, but it is something that is kind of unrealistic for the movie. And it feels weird because the premise is supposed to be something that women can like immediately relate to. Not me personally, because I'm young and people don't even believe I'm the age I am. I look younger than I even am. But I understand the story because I've seen it a bunch of times. But then it kind of goes like completely into like unbelievable territory. But yeah, so then after Sue realizes that Elizabeth was trying to terminate her and basically kill a part of herself, she becomes very angry and it ensues this huge fight. This is another part that people said was very unrealistic because at this point, Elizabeth is so deformed that she can barely walk. Like she can barely move her limbs. It's like she's got rigor mortis in parts of her body. And yet somehow suddenly, as Sue is trying to kill her, she's able to like run from her and like fight back and stuff. It's like all of a sudden, and I get adrenaline happens, but that fight could have lasted like all of 20 seconds because she probably would have tried to run, immediately tripped over, and then Sue would have beat the shit out of her. But yeah, I do like the fact that Sue's reaction to seeing her for the first time, they're seeing each other face to face. Because before it was like only one of them could be awake at the same time. Now they're seeing each other face to face, and Elizabeth has this kind of love-hate feeling towards her because she's like, you are not respecting, me or anything I've given you. You're not grateful for anything I've given you. Like, I created you. So in a way, I do kind of hate you because you're enjoying everything I wish I could enjoy. But then also, I do want you to enjoy these things, and I do want you to experience the success and fame and the beauty and all that. And then Sue is like, you decrepit old bitch, I hate you so much. Your life isn't worth anything. So Sue ends up killing Elizabeth. And then trying to go and do her award show. But because Elizabeth's dead, Sue is also starting to rot. And there's no more substance for her to use to like revitalize her. So she tries to like take it out of Elizabeth. But Elizabeth's like dead. So she tries to use like various different like remains of the substance, like the little juices here and there. And she uses one that she should not have used because it was supposed to be discarded, but it just ended up not ever being thrown away. And so she injects that into her, which was the very first one that Elizabeth used to create Sue. And because it is that kind of initiation dose, it does the same thing where it does the cellular mitosis and starts trying to split her into another version of herself. But obviously it doesn't work and she becomes a literal monster. Another part about this that a lot of people said was unrealistic, which again, I kept waiting for them to tell me that this was like a dream, because it completely goes off the rails after Sue kills Elizabeth, or really after Sue wakes up and decides to kill Elizabeth, because she is literally like she looks like a whole Cronenberg monster, but she tries to dress herself up a little bit and run back in time to make it for the New Year's performance. One, everything that she did would have took her way longer, and people would have immediately noticed that she wasn't there because she was supposed to be on in like a few minutes. And there's no way that she managed to run from the studio all the way to her house, take all them drugs, turn into a monster, try to put the dress back on, but rip it all over her body, and then make her way back to the studio in time to go on stage. And there was even a moment where she hallucinated that people were like celebrating her the way they celebrated Elizabeth way back in the day. And I was like, yes, this whole thing must be a dream or a hallucination. But I don't know if it ever was told that that was it, because she goes out on this New Year's celebration with all the dancers who are topless for no reason in front of a show that includes parents and kids. So the dancers have their boobs out and the show has parents and kids in the audience, along with all of the old white men shareholders and her old white man boss. And she comes out looking like a monster. And people's reaction, as opposed to running away in fear, is to attack her and try to kill her. Because they're like, you're a freak, you're a monster, and I'm gonna kill you. Even at one point, a dude comes out with a fucking samurai sword to slice her head off. And I'm just very confused because the way this is shot makes it seem like she hallucinated when she walked into the studio, but then she stopped hallucinating because then everybody saw that she's a monster. And so now we're in the real world. Where did the samurai sword come from? Why are people trying to kill her instead of running away in fear? Like, everybody is still in the audience as all of this is going on. And so then she gets something gets cut off. Some piece of her gets cut off, and she starts spraying blood everywhere. And she spins around, spraying blood on everybody. And everybody's just getting blood on them and freaking out. If I was there, I would have left. I would have left immediately. But that's not the movie that we're watching. We're watching a movie where crazy shit happens and it all goes out of the realm of realism. I get that. It's just not the type of movie, like, it just did not make sense from a world building and like a narrative standpoint, because it starts off based in a lot of realism, and then it ends in a completely different fantasy world. I don't know whose fantasy it is at this point, because it wouldn't seem like Elizabeth's fantasy or Sue's fantasy, but it goes into the realm of fantasy somewhere. And I guess I missed a shift. I don't know what I missed. I missed something. And I was watching this in a theater, like a pretty empty theater. So it's not like anyone ever distracted me throughout the movie. But like, I completely missed something. And then it ends with her body like exploding. And it's kind of this thing where it kind of ends where it begins, where it's looking at the star, at Elizabeth Sparkle's star. That meant something at the beginning, but now doesn't really mean anything. I've seen a lot of people who absolutely love the movie. Don't get me wrong. I still think that it's a great movie, because I think that Elizabeth and Sue, I forget Sue's name, but I think Elizabeth is Demi Moore. But I think that Elizabeth and Sue's acting was what really sold it. I think Elizabeth in particular, even though I am not a 50-year-old woman, I really felt everything that she felt. Like what she was portraying on the screen as an actor, I felt everything that she felt. And I felt extremely empathetic towards her situation, towards her self-loathing that she had, towards the isolation, the depression. Like, I really felt all of that. It was done really, really well. That alone makes me like the movie. But the other part of the movie that I like is I do really like body horror. I like body horror. I like it being gross, but not because I feel like when movies try to be gross, they usually try to lean more on like vomiting. They do vomiting. They do, and they do like pooping a lot. They'll do vomiting and poop, or they'll have weird scenes of men peeing. It's almost fetishy sometimes, but this one didn't lean into any of that. It did body horror in a different way than what I'm used to seeing in like Hollywood movies. And I thought that it was really good. It was really gross. It's the type of stuff that will make you squirm and make you uncomfortable. I think the effects were really, really good in terms of like, as people's bodies started to like necrotize. I thought that looked really good. There's even some moments, because it's weird when it comes to pulling teeth and when it comes to pulling nails, that stuff makes me squirm. Not a lot of things make me squirm, but pulling teeth and pulling nails makes me squirm. So I really, really did enjoy the effects. I really, really did enjoy the gore. Did it make narrative sense for there to be as much gore that there was at the end of the movie? No. And I'm going to have to dock it for not making narrative sense. Like, even if I suspend my disbelief and pretend that this is some other world where older women can't get plastic surgery or any type of thing to make them look younger for a longer time, the ending still did not make sense for the world that we were introduced in the story. But I don't think that makes it a bad movie at all. I still think it's a good movie. I still think it's a movie that people should watch, just to enjoy it, just for the fun of it. I think there were a lot of interesting shots. Like, the cinematography was really good, because that also helped make it an uncomfortable watch. Like, there was all of these like extreme close-ups that makes me feel really, really uncomfortable. Like somebody was like in my face. So I think the cinematography was really good. I think the acting from the two female leads was really, really good. I think the acting of pretty much every other person I didn't care for that much. But I do think that the acting of the two main leads was very good, because it really helped me understand their feelings. Like they didn't have to do a lot of exposition of like, when I was younger, I was this, and now that I'm this, and now that I'm that. And, you know, they didn't have to do a lot of talking to make me feel what was going on. And I like movies like that. I like movies where they are able to make me feel something versus having to explain to me what I'm supposed to feel in this moment. I don't need a lot of long monologues from the main characters. If you can show me better than tell me, I appreciate that. So I think that they did a really, really good job of that. I'm going to end on that though. Like, I still think it's a great watch. I don't think it's a terrible movie at all. I don't think it's an amazing, perfect movie. They did nothing wrong and it was just, I don't think it's either of those. But I do think that it's a fun watch. And if you are somebody who can suspend your disbelief and just enjoy what you're watching, I think that it is an enjoyable watch while also having moments that make you severely uncomfortable. But if you guys had any thoughts about The Substance, please let me know down in the comments. I'm interested in seeing how you feel because from what I've been seeing of people talking about it online, they've either said that it is like the perfect movie, best movie ever, or they've said it's the worst movie ever. And both of those are very extreme and confusing. Some people say it's perfect because of the actresses, and then other people say it's shit because some people say that Elizabeth's character was great, but then Sue's character was shit. Like, I don't understand. So I really want to hear what you guys have to say about it in the comments. I'm sorry that I sound sick. It's literally my allergies, as you know, it's winter time now. But yeah, let me know in the comments. I also have a Discord. I have a Facebook page dedicated to Meaning's Mortuary. I have an Instagram. I have a coffee if you want to buy me coffee because I don't make any money from YouTube. So if you want to throw me something like, hey, I like what you said here. I don't even know if there's a minimum. I think you could do $1, you could do $5 or whatever on coffee. I'll link all of that in the description. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.